Hello everybody, welcome back to the Blessed Performance YouTube channel. Today, we're going to put a clutch in here in America. You heard it right, it's America. Okay, the reason we're calling it America is if you can't tell, it's red, white, blue. Needless to say, this is the auction truck we picked up. $2,500, not running. Had it running in about 5 minutes. We're not doing anything crazy to this right away. Take that back. Crazy to the average person. It's going to still be a daily driver. It's just going to be a very healthy daily driver. We got some 225/75s on the way. We're going to do a VGT swap, most likely with a big stage 3 VGT for the first round of turbos. And then the second one's going to be a Bullseye BMW Series 66. So, obviously we're going to have to put a FAS on it. We got that. That's another video we'll do. Just having some fun building trucks. Can't really beat this for what we got it for. It's a really good truck. First thing we did is, of course, got rid of the Steelies. Put these 2019 Platties on here with King Ranch hubcaps. Mismatched galore, but it still looks good. And then we got rid of the fender flares that it had these really janky rubber ones that were just horrible looking. Got rid of those, put these rough country ones on. Make it look good. It's going to be kind of a grandpa truck. We got some cool plans with the exhaust that we're going to do, so we'll share that with you guys when we get there. But today we're going to put a clutch in. So we were looking at clutches, trying to decide which one we're going to do. We landed on a VALAIR. Realistically, all the clutches are rated lower than they actually can hold. I know that from experience, and I understand why they do that. Just like transmissions, everything is rated lower than can actually hold. The reason for it is so people don't try to put a clutch, a single disc clutch in a 1,000 horsepower truck. This isn't going to be 1,000 horse. It's going to be 650. So we're doing a 600 horsepower single disc for ease of installation, budget friendly, all that good stuff. And it's not going to tow much. It's going to be our shop truck. There's going to be a capper shell in the back, and it's going to bring some parts around town. That's really all it's going to do. It's going to be my winter beater, because the heater works really good in here, okay? Until we blow the head gaskets, it's going to work really good. Yep, it's a 100% stock truck, one owner, 155,000 miles. And it's a great truck. It's honestly in great shape. Just needs some Blessed Performance love for the heck of it. You know, we're going to put some power to it. We're not going to stud it. We're going to see how long it lasts with that much power. But we know the clutch slips stock, not even tuned, just stock. Clutch slips like crazy. So probably why it was parked 3 years ago and hasn't been driven in 3 years. And so we're going to put a clutch in it today. So let's come over here. I'm going to show them the clutch that we're going to do. We got ourselves this VALAIR heavy duty 600 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque rated clutch, single disc. Comes with a new single mass flywheel. Ceramic buttons, organic and ceramic is what it is. This is not going to be a great clutch for towing. If you're towing heavy, and I mean heavy, constantly towing, you want to stick to an organic. Realistically, the ceramics are just too grabby. They slip too much when you're trying to pull that much weight. I guess you could say the best way I can off the line, and it can burn up the clutch really fast. We're not going to be towing a whole bunch with this thing. If anything, it's going to be hooked to a car hauler, and that's maybe it, you know? So we decided to go with this one. If this doesn't, you know, depending on how long this lasts, then we might upgrade to a dual disc at some point. But for now, I put this clutch in several trucks. This VALAIR, 600 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque clutch. I put it in, gosh, countless trucks, and it's always been great for me because it comes with a new flywheel, all your new bolts. Of course, it comes with a 4,000-pound pressure plate, and then your single disc clutch. New throwout bearing, and of course an alignment tool as well. The pilot bearing's already pressed in, so that makes ease of installation really nice. If you're not going to change the flywheel, you need to put a new pilot bearing in. Well, for our build, we're going to put a new flywheel in because this one's most likely the factory dual mass, and we're going to single mass. So, needless to say, this kit's going in today. It's rated for 600 horsepower, 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, maybe 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, 11, right in there. You can find it on our website. It's right around 900 bucks for this complete kit. It's a great clutch for the hot street daily trucks. I do not recommend it for towing heavy. Towing light, it's going to be fine. It's going to be super grabby backing up. That's the ceramics in the disc here. Okay, organic is what you want for towing. I talk to folks on the phone quite often about their clutches and what they're doing. And the first thing I ask is, how heavy do you tow? Because if you're going to be towing, you need an organic clutch. Okay, so that's going to limit your power that you can put to the ground. Organic dual disc will hold about 600, but I'm not looking to do a dual disc right now. And if I do a dual disc, it's going to be, I'm shooting for 1,000 horsepower. Okay, so this will ride right here. So what happens when you push your clutch in your push, and I can't put pressure on this because it's a 4,000 pound pressure plate. So I'm not gonna break this free, obviously. Them guys are strong, but that clutch with the leverage and everything and the hydraulics, you're able to take, and what happens is, this is riding right here, okay? The pressure plate is sitting on top, and as you can see, it's not gonna seat all the way. It's sitting because I have to put the pressure on it. So what'll happen is, when you push your clutch in, you're gonna put pressure right onto these tangs. That's gonna release the pressure plate and allow the clutch to float, so that way you don't have any tension on the transmission when you go to shift gears. It's called double clutching. You can shift without pushing the clutch in. That's a whole different story. I'm sure some hardcore truckers out there is gonna call me a whatever for double clutching, but I can shift the other way. This is for educational purposes. So when we're installing our alignment tool, first of all, we'll take and we'll mount this bad boy up in there, mount our flywheel up in there, okay? And then we'll put our alignment tool like this, and it's gonna support it just like that. And then we're gonna bring and pick our pressure plate up. We're gonna put it and start and kind of get it aligned, and then start our bolts. And then just like a tire, you're gonna go around and torque it all the way down, okay? I'll have to look up the torque specs to be exact, but you do wanna use a little bit of Loctite, just a little bit. You got the lock washers on here. And then same thing for the flywheel. You wanna use a little bit of blue Loctite on here, and you got your lock washers as well. And these should torque to 90 if I recall correctly, per the specs of any 6.0 transmission flywheel going on. I wanna say these are 90, I'll double verify that before I install it. And these are probably in the 40 to 50 range just based on the bolt itself. I'm guessing it's the 40 to 50 range. So pretty much how manual transmission works. It's not rocket science, it's super easy to work on, super easy to diagnose. Yeah, let's get started installing this VALAIR clutch today. So I'm gonna give you a quick run through, and then as we go through, we're gonna make this couple-hour job. I don't even think it's gonna take us full 4 hours, probably 2 hours max, but needless to say, we're gonna give you a quick step-by-step process to start it off, and then from there, we'll show you steps along the way, a couple minutes of footage in between each thing, okay? So first things first you're gonna wanna do is Adam, since he's already working on the top side of this thing, he's gonna be putting new mirrors on, new cab lights. We got it scheduled for a windshield, but needless to say, he's gonna take care of the shifter for me. Right underneath my finger, there's a screw hole right there. There's gonna be 4 of them. And then from there, you'll be able to pop this up, and there's gonna be 4 Allen heads holding the flange that holds the shifter knob down in the transmission. And then next, from there, that's pretty much it on the top side. If you're gonna be changing your clutch master cylinder, if it's weak, or slave cylinder, then now would be the time to do it. First things first, I'm gonna pull the rear drive shaft, and then I'm gonna pull the front drive shaft, and then I'm going to pull the transfer case. So I'm gonna get all that done before I even touch the transmission. You gotta disconnect the linkage right here for the four-wheel drive. Not too hard to do, 100% honestly, it's not difficult. And then there's those 2 10mm bolts right up there that you gotta take these off. That's the shift lever that goes up into the truck for the manual shift transfer case. So I'm gonna pull all that, and then from there I'll pull the harness. I'll pull my slave cylinder. Once you pull the slave cylinder, do not depress your clutch pedal. If you depress the clutch pedal from there, after that slave cylinder is pulled, you'll push the rod right out of the end of the slave cylinder, and the slave cylinder is pretty much ruined at that point. These are not fun to bleed. If you have to replace that, I recommend buying the one that is pre-bled. And it comes with a new master cylinder, new rod, and a new slave cylinder, everything. And you're able to route it in. It's not very difficult. It's pretty dang easy to route it all together, okay? But if for some reason you have to replace that, I recommend the whole complete kit. You can usually get it for like 60 bucks. While we're in here, we're gonna diagnose this little bit of an oil leak down here. It's either rear main seal or it is the high pressure oil pump cover. And then we're also gonna put a downpipe on this thing because it's still got the original downpipe, the pancake one. So since we're gonna try to make some power, we probably don't want to keep that in there. So anyways, disconnect all that, disconnect the harness. There's just a few things on here, trans temp sensor. There's a speed harness, that's really it. Then our transmission cooler lines, we're gonna disconnect those, and then we got our bell housing bolts right here. We're gonna loosen all that up, put our transmission jack underneath here. We're gonna pull the cross member, and then transmission is gonna slide right out, okay? It's not a very difficult job to do. These manual transmissions are absolutely amazing to do, but the ZF6 is a very big transmission and it is heavy. So if you don't have a 2,000 pound or bigger transmission jack, I do not recommend doing this with one of the little 800 ones that you can get from Harbor Freight. I have the 2,000 pound one from Napa, I think, or Harbor Freight, and it works great. Get the big one. Don't get the small one. Especially if you're working on a diesel, everything's bigger, okay? So this is a very heavy transmission. Just fair warning. Be smart about that. Get a good transmission jack. We don't need anybody dying or anything after watching our YouTube videos. So yeah, we're gonna get started on this, okay? All right, folks. So first thing we did was come underneath and we pulled the rear drive shaft. Little tech tip: use yourself a bungee cord and pull this guy out of the way. If you can see, I left the rear on because there's no point in pulling that. Some guys will pull the whole thing. Nothing wrong with that. Always make sure when you go back together with this that you use a Loctite when you put these back in. Next was to come forward here and get the front drive shaft loose from the transfer case. You can put it in full drive if you wanted to. I don't do that. We lock the hubs in. So we'll get it positioned to where we can get to 3 of the bolts, lock the hubs, get those 3, unlock one hub, spin it around, get the next one. Super easy to do now that it's all locked up, or the fronts keep it locked in place. And then when we put it back in, of course, we will unlock it to spin it and get it lined up. And then once again, use our bungee cord to pull this over to the side over here out of the way. On an electronic shifting transfer case, you'll have 2 plugs right here that you'll have to get out for your full drive shifter motor. Ours only has this one to let it know it's in full drive. That's really all this is for, okay? Then you got your vent right here, which we pulled that off the transmission. And then you got your full drive shifter linkage for the manual transmissions right here. 2 10mm bolts, comes right out. And then this rod right here, of course, goes and locks the transmission into place, or the transfer case into full drive, sorry. I've already slightly pre-done this. You can see where I've scuffed it a little bit here. You just get yourself a pry bar and you go behind here and work it off, and then it just pops right off. I just do the one side, then use a pair of pliers to squeeze it back on when you put it back on. That's all you got to do. So I just do it like that. Now we've got 6 of these bolts right here. They're right here. There's all the way around 6 of them that we got to do. We're going to pull all those. The transfer case comes off. Even me being old, in my late 30s, I can bench press that transfer case no problem. And not very heavy, so I don't use a jack. Don't recommend you do it like me, but that's one way to do it. The other way is put a jack underneath there and bring it out yourself, or bring it out without using your muscles, I guess you could say. Anyways, on to the next step, pulling the transfer case. All right, guys, here we are. We've got the transfer case out, sitting on the ground right here. Just moving it back here out of the way. Super easy to move out of the way. When we go back together, we'll be putting some anti-seize on the shaft here, because this truck coming from Alaska, it has a lot of rust on here, obviously, just from condensation and whatnot. Anyways, they don't share fluid, so there's no gasket in this area right here. But we got those all taken apart. These were all a 13mm, and you can get to these with a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. With this tool right here, you can get to a 13mm socket and a 1/4 inch drive ratchet very easily, all the way across, all the way around on the transfer case flange. Now on an automatic, right underneath here, one of these bolts rotate just a little bit, and underneath here is a bolt on an automatic for the transfer case, and that's a pain in the ass to get out, just so you guys know. Needless to say, got them all out of the way, got them all out, pulled the transfer case. We have pulled the harness and it's sitting hung over here out of the way. We've got this breather tube, and we'll have to take down with the transmission. I'm not going to reach up there and grab it. Okay, so now we're working on the bell housing bolts. That little handy ratchet right there is awesome. You use a bigger ratchet to break it loose, and from there, use that ratchet to spin them all out by hand. Super freaking useful, I gotta be honest. I love that little tool, okay? Now, On a manual transmission, there's nothing to do inside the bell housing when we're pulling a transmission. There's nothing inside of here that we have to worry about. On automatic, you have your torque converter to the flex plate that you have to take those bolts out, okay, those 14mm nuts. So you have to spin the engine over by hand up front with a 16mm, I think it is, or maybe it's an 18. Anyways, you'll spin it over by hand and pull all of the flex plate to torque converter nuts, and then that'll allow the torque converter to stay with the transmission to come out. The reason you want to do that is if you don't do that, you will make a major mess underneath here, okay? So you'll pull all the torque converter bolts, and then you can kind of like push the torque converter in just a little bit more into the transmission. Then it stays with the transmission as it comes out. The flywheel will be changed when we pull this out, and then we'll check for the rear main link, like I said. On an automatic transmission, these are all 13s. On a manual transmission, they're all 15s, okay? There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a manual. I'm thinking there's 7 on automatic, if I recall correctly. 6 or 7 bolts. Anyways, so while we have this out, we're going to diagnose that oil leak like I was saying. But we've got our clutch slave cylinder pulled out, and from this point forward we will not touch the clutch pedal because we don't want this rod up here to shoot out, and then it's a pain in the butt to put it back together. It's already primed. We're going to leave it alone. Shouldn't need to change it. The clutch pedal felt great. It just slipped in the clutch, and if you can't smell through a camera, obviously, or else you'd smell all the lovely clutch material I smell right now. It smells like brakes. Anyways, going to keep moving on this. We got Clayton over there doing a air dog install, and I know it's up sideways, but anyways, there's an air dog install. As you can see, the fuel's draining out. He's doing an air dog with a sump on his truck, and we're doing a transmission over here. Well, a clutch over here. Alright guys, transmission's out. If you look, transmission's back here. Okay, inside here is your throwout bearing. Okay, right here is the throwout bearing. Dang it, if I could get this flashlight to cooperate with me. Right here is the throwout bearing. We're going to be changing that bad boy. Okay, shaft still looks pretty good. Doesn't look ground down or anything crazy. There's no grooves, major grooves in here, so that's good. That is that broke off when they changed the slave cylinder. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a stock clutch that's been here for a while. Up here it looks like we have a high pressure oil pump cover leaking just a little bit, but I don't think that's all of it. We also have a lot of oil in here. So we're going to pull this clutch off, flywheel off, and we will take a look and see how the rear main seal looks. So I've thought it's coming out a little bit. All this rust in here just from wear and tear, which I can almost push these in if I had just enough leverage in the right spot, but I can feel them moving. So I think the factory pressure plate's like right at 2,000 pounds. So putting a stronger pressure plate in is going to help hold the clutch in there. It's going to help the clutch dramatically. But yeah, you can see it's definitely burnt. Look at my hands. It's just, the clutch is definitely done for. I mean, it's the OE clutch, original clutch. This is a one-owner truck. There was, on the Carfax, there was nothing major, no major repairs reported, any little bit of it. I mean, it's still got the stock up pipes and stock down pipe and everything, so not surprised that it's tired at 156,000 miles. So, time to put it in. We're going to get rocking and rolling. First, we're going to take the pressure plate off. Clutch will come out with that, and then flywheel will come off next, and then we'll chime back in and show you guys what the rear main seal looks like. Alright guys, so we got the dual mass flywheel off. I'll give you guys a quick rundown on why that's junk. They're really more designed, they're not really junk, I can't say. They're really more designed for daily driving with a manual clutch. They're quieter, easier to shift, all that other crap. Needless to say, we don't want it. So we're putting a single mass on here, and as you can see, we definitely need to do a rear main seal. You can tell it's been leaking around here. So we're going to be popping this out. We'll do the rear main seal, and then when we go in to do injectors and the new diesel site adrenaline H-pop, we will do the H-pop cover, and we'll show you guys that as we do that as well. This isn't going to be as in-depth of a build as King Twins, but it's still going to be a fun build. Probably make pretty close to the same power, just different purpose. So anyways, we got the clutch out. We're going to get this cleaned up, replace the rear main. We'll show you how that goes. And then, yeah, put the clutch back on and put it back together. So far, we're truly about an hour of labor into this, right in there. So, moving pretty slow because it is Saturday. I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie to nobody. But it'll be worth it when it's all said and done. So here we are. We're gonna do the rear main seal next, okay? And I kind of pre-started this just to make sure it didn't want to fight me, because sometimes this doesn't work. Sometimes you have to pull the whole rear cover. There's your bolts up here and here to get this guy to come out of here, okay? This is the OEM seal. I can guarantee you that this is the original seal. It's never been replaced. So what you do is you run like an 8mm or something south tapper into this, and if it works properly, it'll just pop out like it's popping out right now, okay? I'm gonna try. Clayton, would you mind coming under here and holding this for me, buddy?
Yeah.
Just for just a quick second while I finish popping this out. I can't hold this while popping this out.
Popping out the rear end.
Yep. Let's see here. So now I'm just gonna get myself a spacer to go out here. Just something. Let's see if it wants to. Doesn't want to play fair. Oh, where'd my other pry bar go? There it is. Okay. Let's see if this one wants to play fair. Ah, of course it wants to fight me. Did you just fart, dude?
Why?
Or let your stomach growling from all that Mexican food? Sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, and you gotta play like a magician getting this out of here, but it does work. Oh gosh dang it, it was right there. Hold that, get it to hold, and then come under here.
Oh, she's leaking all over now.
Yep. There we go. Now I can also tell you this is the original OEM one because there's no speedy sleeve. So when I go to install a new one, you're going to see me install a speedy sleeve here. And it's pretty hard to see this here, but hopefully you can see there's a slight ridge, and it's just from wear and tear from years of running, obviously. It gets a little ridge on this crank adapter, okay? And it's right in here where my finger's at. I can feel it catch on my finger now. So what comes in the new kit is what's called a speedy sleeve. It's a metal sleeve that slides over this, and you put it on with your rear main seal at the same time, and it creates a new sealing surface for the crankshaft adapter. Now I'm gonna get some brake clean this up real quick, and when I get ready to install the new rear main seal, I'll come back on camera and show you guys. I have a rear main seal installer tool. If you work on these a lot, it's definitely worth the $200. Maybe be worth it $200 for one-time use to make sure you don't mess it up. Because if you got to pull the transmission twice or 3 times from messing up the install of the rear main with a hammer, which you can do it. It's not impossible, but it's not the best way to do it. Here's our old clutch, our old dual mass flywheel, and the pressure plate. So if you look at this clutch, you can see obviously it's not missing that much material. It's missing enough, but it's really glazed. Okay, you see that glaze on there? Yeah. That means it's been hot a few times. You can see the discoloration in the metal right there. I know that I cooked it at least once. Right, Adam?
Burnouts are fun.
Anyway, so cooked the clutch. It was already weak when I got the truck. But this is the junky dual mass flywheel. It's supposed to make it a little bit easier of a transition with the clutch engaging. A little bit quieter, a little bit easier for daily driving. Not good for power. Best way I can put it. So this bolts onto here. This bolts onto the crankshaft adapter. And then of course your clutch and your flywheel, your pressure plate, go on the back side of this guy. And you can see that's gotten quite hot a few times. Yeah, it was time to upgrade, time to get rid of this junk. Let's put a single mass flywheel in here to get rid of it all. We're gonna get that rear main seal installed, and then from there we will put the clutch on and get back to putting the transmission in. So now we're going to install the rear main seal. I've got the rear main seal tool on, and like I was saying earlier, dang it, I should probably have taken this off before. There's a speedy sleeve right here is what it's called. The sleeve is going to basically give a new sealing surface on the crank adapter. Okay. The general rule of thumb on all rear main seals is the cup side goes in. So you'll see that has like a cup to it. This side's flatter. So we're gonna put this on like this. Just slide it in there. And then we tighten up these Allen heads to the crank adapter. Then we take and slide this over it. Make sure you put that bearing on there. And then this will press it in. Yes, you can use a piece of 2x4 and a hammer to do this. This is a lot easier. This we need to take and zip tie over here out of the way so it doesn't get in the way. We'll put the transmission back in. Ow! That hurt. And you'll feel this tool stop. How to get nice and snug. It only goes so far. It's got a little spacer inside there that I'll show you when I take it off, that you take out of your rear main seal kit, and you use it with, it's designed to use with this tool. There we go. Now it's tight. Okay. It's a little snug to push that speedy sleeve into place. Okay, so you see how it slid the speedy sleeve all the way to the edge? Push this all the way in there. If you look, we just keep reusing the old one that came with the first kit that we got. But this plastic sleeve in here pops out. And that's what sets this in at the right depth on this guy right here. Which, if you guys watched our King Twins build, we talked about the same thing on the King Twins build. So now we are done installing the rear main. So I will take this tool off and then get ready to install the new single mass flywheel, clutch, and single mass flywheel, clutch, and pressure plate. And then we will put the transmission back in and install the throwout bearing, which I took the throwout bearing off already. So I'll show you guys how to put that on the clutch fork next, real quick. Clayton's in the background recording YouTube for his air dog. So inside the transmission, which I gotta kind of turn around to do this, there's this clip right here. That's where the clutch fork sits on. Okay, it pivots from that guy. Of course, it slides over right here, and it sits right over here. Here's the clutch fork right here. The throwout bearing essentially rides in this guy. So this will snap in like that. The throwout bearing just has these little tabs on the side right here. I don't know if you can see that. Little tabs, they just clip in right into here. Just like that, okay? So it allows it to ride across the input shaft when you push the clutch in. Okay, there we go. Snapped in. Good to go. Okay, so when you push your clutch, boom, that's releasing the pressure on the pressure plate. This bearing touches that, allows it to spin freely. This will, the throwout bearing will go out sometimes, and then it's a major job to come in here and change it all. Kind of a pain in the butt. Needless to say, we're going to clean this up a little bit and then get the new clutch and stuff installed in here. We got our whole flywheel installed. All these bolts torqued to 90 foot-pounds, or good and tight, as the Russians say. this Milwaukee right here, just like that. Till it stops turning. That works as well. Okay. Needless to say, we got some blue Loctite on them. We make sure that it pressed into the crank flange adapter. You'll see that when you do yours. It's kind of hard to do it all at once underneath here with holding a camera. So we got this pressed in. Our dowel guide pin right here to guide us where it needs to go. Now we're ready to put the clutch alignment tool, the clutch, and then we're going to put the pressure plate on, and then ready to go back together with the transmission. So that's up next. The alignment tool is right here. That slides in. Well, what you do is you'll take and you'll do this, and it'll slide into there. Push it forward, and it holds it in place. Pretty easy to use. Pretty nice. Makes it simple. And then you grab this heavy-ass pressure plate. This thing's heavy. Just like the flywheel, it's heavy. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure you have all these with the lock washer on them. Alrighty. Slide that guy up there. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do this by yourself. Plus, I'm a little high from all the brake clean under here.
Hey, don't say it out loud.
I know.
I know, right?
You just want to go around and get all these started, and then grab your impact or ratchet, whatever you're using, and then just like a tire, start on one point. What you want to do is kind of just hold this up towards, see how it sags a little bit? You just want to hold it up just like that, so it doesn't get locked down there. You don't want it to lock down there. You want it to, like, so if you just take and just put pressure right there, it automatically lifts it to where it's supposed to be. Because you want that lined up when you put this thing back in. 1, 2, 3, 4. For those of you asking why I didn't do it on a lift, I don't like to do everything on my YouTube on a lift. I like to show how guys have to do it at home that don't have a lift every day. Just like we did with King Twins, we built it without pulling the cab. We did compound turbos without pulling the cab, pulled the whole engine. Same concept here. So that way, hopefully this helps somebody change their clutch in their driveway at home. Saves them $1,000 in labor. Just got to make sure you have the right tools. Oh yeah, by the way, the flywheel bolts, the new flywheel bolts were a 17mm, where coming off the factory ones were a 16mm. Once you get one side snugged up, it should be pretty well set. If you guys watch the pressure plate go in like that, you don't really want to take this out until you're done tightening this up. Started right there, came down here, went there, over here. Now I'm sure on VALAIR's website they have an exact torque spec for these. Personally, I'm not going to worry about checking it. It's probably in that 30 to 40 foot-pounds range, just based on the size of the bolt. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm saying I'm not going to. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready to put the transmission back in. Just like that, she's done. So we're gonna slide the transmission back in. And then once we get that all bolted up, put the transfer case, both drive shafts. I mean, it's pretty much just like we showed you guys how to take it off. Now it's the same thing going back together, just in reverse. So probably do the reinstallation a little faster than we did on the video, a little faster than we did the disassembly, because it's literally reverse of everything else. We got it all nice and cleaned up. Got the pressure plate, and you can watch the pressure plate pull itself in. That's let you also know that it's torqued in there properly. So yeah, off we go. We got the transmission back in. So quick little tip, when it comes to lining up the pilot bearing with the input shaft of the transmission, you got to try to be pretty spot on. So you want to make sure that the transmission jack has it pretty level with the engine. And then what I've done in the past is we put 2 bolts on the bottom, 1 bolt on each side on the bottom, just to kind of help guide it a little bit, okay? And then from there, go behind the transmission, slightly pick it up and push it in, and you'll feel it slide into the pilot bearing. You'll see it come closer up, tighten up to the bell housing to the rear cover, and then you can go ahead and put your bolts in and tighten them up, snug them up, and then from there you put your cross member in, and then get your transmission jack out of the way. The rest of this is, especially on this manual transmission, is a walk in the park. Put the slave cylinder back in for your clutch, slave cylinder, transmission lines. You got the 1 sensor up here, and then you have your 4-wheel drive sensor on that side of the transfer case, and that's pretty much it. Then you put your transfer case back into your drive shafts. Always make sure that you put blue Loctite. If you can see on that one right there, I've got some blue Loctite on there. Okay. Everybody say hi to Clayton.
Howdy, howdy.
He bench pressed this up here for me tonight. Him and I put the transfer case up here. Honestly, it's not that difficult. I've done a lot of them by myself, but it always helps having a second pair of hands on there to manhandle that transfer case and line it up. Of course, put your transfer case bolts back in, torque everything, and then we're done. Yeah, this is install of a VALAIR single disc, 600 horsepower, 1100 foot-pound torque, ceramic clutch. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I do not recommend ceramic for towing. Organic is what you want for towing. We're not going to be towing heavy with this truck. If anything, it'll be a dump trailer or a flatbed, nothing crazy. And because of that, I'm okay with the ceramic, because we're only going to use it a few times a year for towing. Most of the time, it's just going to be toting parts around to the shop and taking us to lunch. Like, subscribe, follow, set up notifications, all that good stuff. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, and the Facebook, and look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.